Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, boys and girls, and the two most important people here today, Adrian and Faye. Can I simply say, well, I'm sure I'm going to repeat a number of things that Kevin has said, but can I simply say that Faye today looks an absolute picture. Anne and I have got to know Faye very well over the last few years. She is clearly an extremely caring person who has demonstrated that she is tolerant, think about it, considerate, and her personality now enables her to take on board other people's problems of all sorts. She has an extremely warm personality, and she has lots of time, particularly for her family and all of her friends. In terms of the fact that Faye has completed her university nursing studies this year, or earlier this year, I think that everyone is delighted that she's managed to achieve this ambition, this goal. She did remarkably well, and hearty congratulations. But I should perhaps say a few things about Adrian. You don't have to. Okay, well, it's been very nice talking to you. Just by way of example, occasionally I've asked both my son and daughter to assist me at various times in my career, to assist me in a work sort of sense. About 4.5 years ago, I rang Adrian because I was somewhat pressed and asked him whether he perhaps could afford to give me a couple of hours of his valuable time on a Saturday morning to meet me in Essex. And he, without hesitation, said yes, and instantly wanted to know the postcode so that you could go onto the internet and find out exactly what the site was. I was all very impressed. So he agreed. 2 days later, on the Saturday morning, I was very close to the site when my phone rang, and it was Adrian. And I think he was perhaps just waking up. But in fact, his words were, "Where are you?" I was mightily impressed by that. 5 minutes later, I pulled up, and there he was, sat in the car, waiting to give me a hand. It was a January morning. It was a typical January morning. Very, very cold, wet, windy, and pretty gritty. And when I pulled up alongside Adrian's car, he gave me a grin and then looked up at the sky and didn't look too enthusiastic about getting out of the car. However, he did, and we set off around the site, armed with the usual stuff, brollies, tapes, all the sort of things that both my two children have enjoyed assisting me with. So we walked around this site, and the 2 hours extended to 3. By 12 o'clock, it actually stopped raining, and at 11:45, we finished the survey, got back to the car, and first thing we did was obviously to establish that there was a pub only about 5 minutes down the road. So we headed for the pub, and basically, obviously, just purely get into the warm. But having got into the pub, I fully expected Adrian to express his thoughts. But what he did do was to decide what we were going to have to eat and drink, and we sat down and had a conversation which I remember very, very clearly. That conversation, basically, as I say, 4.5 years ago, and he told me all sorts of things, all of which I won't relate today. But one of the key things was that Faye wanted to do this 3-year full-time university course, and he was obviously very, very committed that Faye should achieve that. He also talked about all sorts of hopes and aspirations for their future. It was quite evident from the conversation we had, and it was a very one-sided conversation in many ways, that Adrian and Faye were very much an item. They were a couple, and they were considering their future together. Well, the university course is complete. A lot of the hopes and aspirations that Adrian outlined on that occasion have come to fulfilment, and today we see them married. I trust that a lot of the hopes and ideas that Adrian expressed on that occasion which are very much involved with Hereford, and they will realise in the remaining years of their lives, which I'm sure will be very, very happy and fulfilling. Adrian has had some interesting phases in his life, which I will only very briefly touch on. Some highs and some lows. He had what I would describe as Blackadder and the Young Ones period, which was Ramadine, fairly horrendous. All I can say is that he was virtually word perfect in terms of some of the Blackadder scripts. If only he put as much effort into his A-levels, I think he would have got straight A's right the way across the board. He, however, got his A-levels and went off to university. Some of those people that he spent, and friends that he spent at university down in good old Pontypridd are here today. I can say that Anne never visited the place where Adrian lived, or the accommodation that Adrian lived in for 3 years. But I've never seen such squalor in my life. How 5 incredibly intelligent people could live like that was completely beyond me, so much so that I never took out there. But I can only assume that the endurance was part of all 5 inhabitants' courses. American football has always been something that Adrian has been mad about. He's played for various teams, including the Leicester Panther Youth, the London Mets, and various other organisations. His nickname was Sticky Fingers. Playing wide receiver, he occasionally caught the ball on the touchline before being hammered by the opposition. He must have done something right, because to the best of my knowledge, he was only left the playing field once heading for hospital. Well, at least that's what Anne and I have been told. He does tell me that he's thinking about changing and going on to the touchline, and I think that's a far better proposition than putting on all here. And
you'll probably find some people who will agree with you.
Can I just finally say that Anne, Rachel and I are very happy that Adrian has found someone that's had a very, very positive effect on his life. His house has changed. He's now got a feminine, warm, homely character, and there's only one person responsible for that. He's also started to even dabble in DIY and gardening. He's got some clematis which were apparently doing quite well. They were in a pot for 2 years, but on advice he put them into the soil. Apparently they're actually growing now. I should finally like to say that it's an absolute pleasure for me to welcome Faye into our family. Adrian, you've done very well. May I ask everyone to join me in toasting Faye and Adrian? May they have many happy years together.